With me now is i24 News UK correspondent Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, is it clear right now who is in charge of the government? Is it necessary now for Rob to become acting Prime Minister? Does that fill the criteria if necessary?
Jeff, we don't have in the UK a system like that in the US where there is a preordained order of people who will take charge should the president not be available to do so there. Instead here, Dominic Raab has made it clear that the Prime Minister called him before going into intensive care and asked him to deputise on decision-making where necessary. There's a bit of ambiguity in that, but that's intentional because the system for actually choosing a temporary Prime Minister would be different should that be necessary down the line. That will be the choice of the Cabinet altogether. So for now, Dominic Raab is deputising, making important decisions, though many of those strategically in this fight against COVID-19 have actually already been made. So he may have the job now of implementing those decisions in terms of economic stimulus and also the healthcare and public health implications and decisions of what Boris Johnson already put in place. He'll be perhaps operating along the lines of those things that have already been decided.
Jonathan, statistically, for a coronavirus patient to be moved to the intensive care unit of a hospital, statistically, it doesn't necessarily have a positive outcome. It's up to 50% in some hospitals around the world, recovery or death. I mean, do we know how grim the situation is at this moment for Boris Johnson?
Well, I think we've got to be very careful about statistics of survival based on the limited amount of information we do know about Mr. Johnson's current health situation. We know that at 7 p.m. last night, the statement said, his doctors who were caring for him in St. Thomas's Hospital decided that he should be put in intensive care, but it was made clear then that he wasn't on a ventilator, something that was repeated this morning by Michael Gove, who himself has now gone into self-isolation at home because a member of his household has apparently shown some symptoms. That's routine. He'll be in isolation for 2 weeks as a consequence of that, according to the current rules. But back to Boris Johnson, we've been told that he has been having oxygen, but he is not on a ventilator. The reason they say they put him into intensive care is so that that option was more readily available should it be necessary to aid his recovery. They're giving us very little precise information beyond that, though there is a briefing at midday in Downing Street to perhaps give more information on his current health situation. So whether or not he's likely to get better quickly or whether or not he's in a more critical condition, needing more oxygen in a more intrusive way into his body, we don't yet know. And that, of course, would play a part in determining any kind of statistics as to his survival rate.
All right, an update coming in the hours to come from Downing Street. Jonathan, thank you so much for that update.